Mr. Rock's top 25 Super Nintendo games that I used to own. If your host, Mr. Rock, out there, hope everyone's doing wonderful in the wonderful world of YouTube. Big shout out to Rufus the Red, my Fox Kids brother, Hale Gorganis, my broganis. He's live streaming right now. Also Minky Minx, Sinistar, King of the Randoms, Miss Kiwi Gaming, and the rest. Sorry, I just recently woke up not too long ago. I did a little cleaning, so that's why my brain's literally... But with that being said, we're going to get into today's video in just a second. I'm just going to make sure that everything's working fine. I know sometimes in the past, things haven't worked out really well. Oh, there we go. Yep. And with that being said, since we're ready, we're going to get right into the list. Number 25, the Simpsons games. And a lot of people will say, well, I couldn't, like, some of them literally, like, one thing a lot of people don't know, I used to actually have one of the largest SNES games in Canada at one time. I literally had over 1,000 games, so this is why this list was pretty hard to do. So that's why I said Simpsons games. So that's Virtual Bart, Krusty's Nightmare, and Bart's Nightmare. No, Krusty's Funhouse, I meant. Yeah, my brain's still trying to wake up. Krusty's Funhouse and Bart's Nightmare. I owned all three at one time. Bart's Nightmare is probably the one I actually enjoyed the most, in a way. Virtual Bart was kind of weird. Krusty's Funhouse was kind of weird. Bart's Nightmare wasn't bad, but I didn't get far in the game. Never beat the game either. Never beat any of the Simpsons freaking video games for Super Nintendo. I don't know if I ever beat them for NES, though. But yeah. Number 24 is the Mega Man X series. And people would say, wait, what? Some of you guys would put Mega Man way higher. But me, on the other hand, I got Mega Man X series late. So I didn't really get a chance to really play it. I only played a little bit of it, to be honest. I didn't mind it, but technically that's right around the time my dad literally traded my freaking Super Nintendo for a fake bear rug and a freaking woman's leather jacket, which was hilarious because that jacket was only worth about maybe $20 at a freaking thrift store, and the bear rug was fake. It was buffalo, and buffalo skin buffalo skin rugs are super cheap. So number 23 is Uniracers. Just like Mega Man, I got Uniracers quite late, but it needed to be on the list. So, yeah. I don't really remember too much about it. I remember having some fun with the game, you know. Like, I sort of remember the game, but I don't really remember, like, too much if I actually ever won the races or anything like that. I think I just goofed off in the game, to be honest. Number 22 is WWF WrestleMania, the arcade game. Woo! Why is this such a late entry? It is very simple. I owned it for a bit, never really played it that much. I didn't mind the game, but I actually preferred the arcade game than the Super Nintendo version. And technically, that's how I feel about some of these games that are literally ports to literally, like, from the arcade to literally home consoles. I just prefer the arcade version. There's something about literally going to the arcade, putting your freaking 25 cents in, or dime, or whatever it was, and just freaking playing the game. The arcade game, in a way, was okay, but, man, nothing beats literally going to the arcade back in the day. And it didn't have the same feel, you know, and that's why it's such a late entry. Number 21 is TMNT Tournament Fighters. One thing I gotta say about that game is that it's freaking hard for me. I actually had my ass whooped. I never beat the game. I remember owning the game, but I never literally ever beat the game. I have it for the Cowabunga collection as well. Um, Tried it again, literally last year, and I still couldn't figure out how to beat it. So I don't think that's a game I'll ever beat. So that's why. Number 20 is WWF Raw for Super Nintendo. I actually had WWF Raw for both Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis at one time. Um, Sega Genesis I literally did have, but I didn't have very many games. That's why I didn't literally put it on the list. I don't know if I actually even had 10 games, to be honest, for the Sega Genesis. I think I had about maybe 8, if I remember correctly. And it's basically your standard games like Streets of Rage 2, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, and stuff like that. You know, it wasn't nothing special, that's why. But so number 20 is WWF Raw. Like, I have fond memories of playing the Super Nintendo, but I think I played the Sega Genesis version more. I think I like the Sega one better. Um, Number 19 is NBA Jam. What's not to say about NBA Jam that has never been said? The game was phenomenal and everything else. Um, but just like, yeah, actually, yeah. Just like freaking the last entry, WWF Raw, I actually did own NBA Jam for Sega, and I actually preferred the Sega version over Super Nintendo version. Um, but yeah, it's just a preference of mine, you know. And was the NBA Jam great? Of course it was, you know. But I just think that Sega had a nudge on Super Nintendo games sometimes, and that was one of them. Um, Number 18's Groove Troop. Woo! I owned Groove Troop for a bit, and I literally give that game away for my friend's birthday. I remember literally buying the game and everything else. My friend's birthday came up. He wanted the game, and I gave it to him. And I only played it for about maybe a month before I gave it to my friend Sean Cummings. Um, yes, Sean, if you're technically, if you ever watch this video, yes, I repackaged the freaking game to make it look like that technically was still brand new, but no, I actually did and play it. But yeah. Um, so did I really own it? Technicality, yes, because I did own it for about a month, and I did miss Goo Troop. It was such a great game. Capcom literally made the game, I think, and man, do I ever regret literally giving that game up? You know, I like, for instance, I remember literally kicking the freaking the things, those little, what was it, the square freaking things at your guys. I forget what they're called, like the metal square things. But yeah. Number 17, which I actually do hold the world record for. And I really doubt that people would ever beat this game because it was a freaking glitch. My Super Nintendo started acting up, and technically I beat this game in literally 10 seconds. Yes, guys, 10 seconds I beat the whole entire game. And that's Killer Instinct. I put the game in, played a freaking the campaign, and the game started literally acting up. And honestly, this is not on emulator or nothing like that. This was on original Kart back then, and to this day, I don't think I could ever do it because it was literally a glitch. It literally, like, every opponent that I literally freaking faced just kept on dropping. They drop, 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 and then it will switch, and then drop, 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 drop. I didn't even have to hit them. I didn't even have to hit them, which was really weird. And I just went, wow. But yeah, I actually do hold probably the world record for Killer Instinct because of a glitch. But at the end of the day, should it count? Probably not. But it was on original cartridge, you know. So, and I did play it. So I don't know. You be the judge. Number 16 is Super Castlevania 4. Super Castlevania 4 was a great game and all, but I think Dracula X was a little bit better, but Dracula X, I don't think made this list. No, it didn't. Um, I sort of forgot about Dracula X in a way on this list, but yeah, I think Dracula X was a little bit better than Super Castlevania 4. My opinion for Super Nintendo Castlevanias. Uh, Super Castlevania 4 was great and all, you know, but my money would be on Castlevania. And like I said, Dracula X. The original Castlevania games were great for NES. I never owned NES though. That's one thing I can say. I never owned NES. I always had to play NES at a freaking friend's house if I was to ever play NES games. I literally had a whole bunch of people that owned NES, so it was not that hard. Hey, going on, Numis. Okay. Take care, man. Um, but yeah, Super Castlevania 4, yeah. Like I said, Dracula X is, I find a little bit better. Dracula X I sort of forgot about, but yeah, I did have it. But yeah. Number 15 is Donkey Kong Country 2. Woo! I love Donkey Kong Country 2, in a way. But not as much as literally some of the other entries, and you'll find them later. Donkey Kong Country 2 to me was tough. I'm not gonna lie, it was tough. It was fun, but it was tough for me. And at the end of the day, that's the way. That's the way how I literally see it. People will say, it's not so tough." Well, when you're not used to literally a lot of these games in a way, I do find them fun. It's just that technically, some games I find harder than others. Like some people literally say that Battletoads is hard. Hey, I beat Battletoads. To me, it wasn't that hard. It was all about figuring out the pattern. If you can figure out the patterns of the games, each level has a different pattern. That's my hint. If you can figure out the pattern, you pretty much can beat Battletoads. Same thing with Silver Surfer. I actually beat Silver Surfer pretty quick because of how the pattern is, as well. But yeah. Number 14 is Super Mario Kart. Okay, so Super Mario Kart, the very first one, I literally had it, didn't play much of it. That was my biggest problem. I didn't really get into Mario Kart until Mario Kart 64. I had Super Mario Kart, but I wasn't really big into it. I kind of regret it years later, in a way, but just wasn't. There were so many other games at the time that I actually owned that this one kind of fell off the radar. Like, I'll play it here and there, but when the 64 came out and you had Mario Kart 64, that was the one that we played the most, But yeah, I'm glad that the Switch literally added that version as well, so that I can actually do play it. But at the end of the day, yeah, growing up, I didn't really play much of it. I'm glad that I got to play it now as I'm literally older. And I still find it to be a great game. But it didn't get so high because, well, there's other games on this list. Number 13, Sunset Riders. Woo! Sunset Riders, man. What can I say? I used to be a big fan of Western TV shows and movies, and this game was pretty much like a light gun game. It looked like, I think it was a light gun game at one time or another, or was that a different one? I don't know. I get confused with video games sometimes. But yeah, I remember playing the Sunset Riders and everything else. I just remember technically the guys would come out constantly, and you gotta kill them all and everything else. And yeah, um, but as I said, some of these games I have fond memories of. Sunset Riders, I remember playing it, but I don't really remember it that well. you know, I just remember that part. I don't think I ever beat Sunset Riders. No, I didn't. But at the end of the day, yeah. Number 12, FZero. Woo! FZero. This would be a lot. This would be higher on a lot of people's lists, but for me, FZero was insanely hard game. I'm not joking. I would crash into those walls like crazy, blow up my vehicle, had to restart the race, unless I was playing on easy mode. If I played on easy mode, it was fine. The second I literally went anywhere higher than that, like the Grand Prix mode, I think challenge, I think it was called, I would destroy my vehicle 10 seconds flat. It would be like, oh my goodness. Now I gotta start the race off all over again constantly because I'm literally in last place because my vehicle exploded. And that was my frustration playing FZero. But yeah. Um, a lot of people, okay, number 11 would be Final Fantasy. Now, to some people, it's Final Fantasy 3. To others, it's Final Fantasy 6. To me, it was one of my favorite Final Fantasy games of all time. I know some people say Final Fantasy 2 was good and everything else. I played Final Fantasy 2. I just prefer 6/3, or as 2 would be, I think 5. I think. Um, so technically, don't bite my head off on this. But yeah. But yeah. I remember playing Final Fantasy 6, getting really into it, and everything else. I wasn't a huge fan of RPGs or nothing like that. Never had really been into it. But there's sometimes I do appreciate a good freaking game. And just the art style. It was the art style that really drew me to literally Final Fantasy 6. I just loved the art style. Just the way how everything was drawn perfectly and everything else. Final Fantasy 2, literally, the characters kind of looked a little off. Or 5. They just looked a little off. But when you literally play Final Fantasy 6 and you see that art style, especially on 16-bit, it was pretty damn impressive at the time. You know? And even to this day, if you go back and literally take a look at it, for its time, that was great. And that's the reason why I loved it. And that's the other thing about RPGs. It was more of the art style I liked, more than the actual game sometimes. Uh, Number 10. This would be a lot of people's number 1. In a way. But we're finally into the number 10. Super Mario World. I actually do like Super Mario World, but it was not a game that I actually knew how to beat until my friend Sean taught me how to beat the game. My friend Sean has probably one of the quickest world records to ever have hold that game. He literally beat the game within literally like I think 12 or 14 minutes or something stupid like that, like the whole entire game. And I literally said, "How the hell did you do it?" And he literally said, "Well, technically, there's tricks to the game." And honestly, if Sean literally had a YouTube channel, I would literally promote it and literally tell you to go watch his tricks on literally these video games because he still, to this day, knows how to beat these games really quick. And to me, on the other hand, like Super Mario World was one of those games where all my friends knew how to beat really quick. Mr. Rock, well, it would take him probably about a couple hours. Um, hey, AJ Banks, hope all is well. But yeah, as I said, Super Mario World was always a game that I could literally beat the game. It's just that I didn't know all the goddamn secrets like everyone else knew. So I would actually have to play the game the whole entire way. There's people that literally say, "Well, technically, didn't you know about Star Road, and everything?" It's like, supposed to get the key here, and it's just like, what? So yeah. Later down the road, I actually just literally started figuring out, but it's not a game that I actually look fond of. Number 9, Link to the Past. Link to the Past was great. I actually did. That was one game I did beat. I did beat Link to the Past. I beat it once. One time. And I remember my friends literally freaking being surprised when they were watching me beat the game as a kid. But yeah, I beat the game once. I've never beat it as an adult. I went back and played it on the Switch. I played it on the Switch version. Couldn't remember any of the freaking things I did. I wish I had the brain like I did when I was a kid. You know, just to literally see, okay, can I beat this game? Can I not? You know, and when I literally played it back on the Switch, it was literally like, but I did enjoy it. Don't get me wrong. I always enjoyed Zelda games in a way. Like I said, Ocarina of Time is probably my favorite. But Links to the Past was a great game for Super Nintendo. Um, and shockingly, a lot of people would literally give me a freaking credit, literally hate for this one. But I never beat, and I'm not joking about this, a Zelda game without my friend's help. Um, I literally beat Ocarina of Time. I think Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask are the only two I ever beat with my friend's help. Like I said, my friend Sean Cummings is his last name actually. Literally taught me how to freaking beat those games. If it wasn't for him, I probably still would never have beat a Zelda game. But yeah, he showed me how to beat Ocarina of Time, and I remember he showed me how to beat Link to the Past as well. So yeah, big shout out to Sean Cummings on that one. Um, Now, number 8 is Arrow the Acrobat Serious. A lot of people would literally forget about Arrow the Acrobat, to be honest, because technically it was a big game. I used to love Arrow the Acrobat, like the circus missions and all that stuff, and you know, like you could jump on the trampoline. I used to play Arrow the Acrobat for hours and hours, sometimes just to have fun, you know. And you get to shoot, and I believe you go into the cannon and you shoot out, and then you jump into the next level. It was literally like being at a circus, but on your Super Nintendo, you know. And yeah, you took out the clowns and the bad guys and everything, but it was literally just a fun little game. And I loved Arrow the Acrobat Serious. And yeah, and I know some people would say, well, technically, I haven't heard about that game in years. Well, technically, that's the thing, I didn't want to make my list literally just all common games. I wanted to literally throw in some games that maybe people haven't heard of in literally 20 years. But yeah, that was one that I actually did love. Number 7, the Street Fighter Serious games. And you're going to say, wait, what? Which one? Well, if to be honest, my favorite was Turbo, but I did own the Championship Edition. I did own a few others. Um, Street Fighter to me, I remember my favorite part about Street Fighter was beating the shit out of that car. I used to beat that shit out of that car with Vega, just keep slicing the car up and everything else. And Vega is still my favorite all-time Street Fighter character. What's not to love about the freaking glove, you know? Remind me of literally something like Freddy Krueger, you know? And technically, like, his character just made sense to me, you know? Any guy could put on a glove and just go, you know? Whereas some of these guys literally just went, okay, is he really serious? Is he really going to shoot a fireball out somewhere, you know? And I got it, and I get it, you know. Dragon Ball Z was big at the time as well, and that's what Street Fighter was kind of based off of. You know, some people will say no, it wasn't. Oh yeah, it was. You know, it was based on the very first Dragon Ball. You know, like they would shoot power ups at each other. Dragon Ball was doing the same thing. You know, so it's kind of literally vice versa. But yeah, I'm not a big, huge fan of Street Fighter, but trust me, I do appreciate it. Um, Number 6, WWF Royal Rumble. Holy crap. That was Mr. Rock's very first WWF licensed video game I ever owned. And I remember getting that game, putting it in, and all you would hear is do 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 do, you know, and you were sold. You were sold in the game right away, you know. And yeah, it was cheesy. It was cheesy as hell. You know, people say, yeah, the LJN games kind of sucked. But after the day, it was cheesy, but it was fucking hilarious. It was hilarious to literally go, I hear that, ooh, 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 you know, as the guy literally falls down. You know, you could cheese the whole entire game by just literally just going like this the whole entire time. And then the guy would fall down and then technically you just pin him. So at the end of the day, yeah, it was literally one of the funniest freaking things. I still literally love to go back to the freaking thing. That's why I actually have my computer over here. I sometimes literally go back and play the old wrestling games like WWF Royal Rumble from 1992 just to literally get a laugh, you know, just to get a laugh, you know. And it was just so freaking great at the time. But yeah, and people were wondering what year I probably got it. It was probably be about 93, I think. I think I got it literally a few months later after it came out. So, yeah. Number 5, Earthbound. Woo! I actually went back and played Earthbound when it literally came out on the Switch, for the Switch Online. Man, is that game hard. I did beat it once. I did beat Earthbound once, in a way. But man, is that game hard. You know, it's hard, confusing. I remember getting called from the dad constantly because I'll be out. He'll literally tell you to go back and everything else, you know. And it used to piss me right off. It would be like, I'm trying to get this mission done. Stop calling me. You know. And I'm talking about the game. I'm not talking about real life, you know. But I remember in the game, your dad would call you like constantly in the game, and it just pissed you off. But I remember having a lot of fun with it. You know, like it's the only game that I remember that technically you fight a giant tent, a slice of pizza, freaking like everything. They threw everything underneath the sun. They're all like, alarm clock. Let's add that in the game. Oh, a controller. Let's add that in the game. PS5 controller. Let's add that in the game. That's what I felt like when you played Earthbound. It was like, okay, what's next that I'm fighting? You know? And yeah, it's a long game. Don't get me wrong, but it's freaking fun. Like I said, if it wasn't for literally Sean Cummings, I probably wouldn't have beat these games. He's the one that taught me how to beat Earthbound, actually, because he figured it out first. He showed me how to do it, and then that's how I figured it out. But yeah, Earthbound is number 5. Number 4, TMNT Turtles in Time. Woo! That's such a great freaking game. I loved TMNT as a kid. You know, Cowabunga Power was all the freaking thing. That's why I own both Shredder's Revenge and the Cowabunga Collection on the PS5. I already live streamed both of those games. I was thinking about doing TMNT Turtles in Time eventually until I realized, damn, I don't know if I'm ready for this yet. But yeah. I think I did the arcade version, maybe. I'm not sure. I can't remember. It was literally a year ago. But yeah. But Turtles in Time, great freaking game. Great freaking port on the Super Nintendo as well. Like I said, I also always preferred the arcade, but for some reason I think they hit the nail on the freaking head when Konami released it for Super Nintendo. And I still remember to this day. Did I ever beat the Turtles in Time? I think I beat it I think I beat the arcade version on the PS5 because technically, well, you could just set the freaking thing, you know. But I don't know if I ever beat it on freaking Super Nintendo. It's literally like, eh. Now, number 2. One of the most beloved video game franchises for Mr. Rock. in a way. The game, it's being rebooted not too long from now. Mortal Kombat, the original 1, 2, and 3, not to be confused with the newest one because it's called Mortal Kombat 1, but the original one from 1993 and then 4, 5, whatever. Holy crap. When I first played Mortal Kombat, in a way, yes, I do like the Sega Genesis version as well, but growing up, I actually played the Super Nintendo version more than the Sega Genesis version. I only had Mortal Kombat 1 for Sega Genesis. I never owned 2 or 3. And I remember growing up playing that and being like, damn, that is the game. You know, like when you get the the pit, I believe, right? Yeah. When you get to throw your opponent into the pit with a freaking like clothesline, no, what was it? Uppercut. Yeah, the flying uppercut or something like that, the uppercut. And I remember literally doing the uppercut, literally throwing them into the pit. It was like, whoa, I'm actually killing my freaking person. This is a game where I actually get to be the killer in this. And I remember it was my Uncle Kennard. Uncle Kennard was the first one to give me the freaking Mortal Kombat for Super Nintendo. I recently had it for Sega Genesis, but I remember he's the first one to literally give it to me for Super Nintendo, and he literally said, you played it for like my dad literally played it in a way, and so my dad didn't let me play this Sega Genesis version in a way since I was a little kid. So my Uncle Kennard literally said, well, you gotta try this one. It doesn't have any blood, so you can play as much Mortal Kombat as you want. So I literally said, okay. Yes, it was a downgrade, and looking back at it, you know, it kind of sucked. But at the end of the day, at least I got to play Mortal Kombat as a kid, thanks to my Uncle Kennard. You know, because yeah, as a kid, you know, my dad was not the best at literally being a parent. My mom was. My mom was the one that literally tried to keep me away from the bad shit. My dad, on their head, didn't care. But my dad literally had his own video game consoles, his own video games, and used to say, "Do not play these games, kid. If I did, I'll kick your freaking ass." I'm not joking. My dad would kick the shit out of your ass if you were caught playing his freaking video games at the time. My dad sucked at video games. No joke, he sucked. But at the end of the day, he did play some. I think the best game he was ever good at was, I think, Gran Turismo 3, in a way. And that's all because he'll freaking slam me into a freaking wall and then freaking go into first place. And I'll be like, well, you kind of cheated there. No, I didn't. I just literally freaking drove into you. I'd be like, yeah, okay. And number 1, Donkey Kong Country. My favorite SNES game is Donkey Kong Country. What's not to love? The soundtrack, the freaking gameplay. Holy crap, I probably played more Donkey Kong Country than any of these Super Nintendo games. No joke. Any one of them. Donkey Kong Country was a game I loved. I still play it on the Switch sometimes, you know. And it's just a great game to literally go back to, you know. When you literally hear the water levels and everything else, and you literally, like, it's just like, it's like being at a spa, pretty much, with that relaxing music. You know, it's kind of like being at a spa, you got the relaxation freaking thing, you know, and it was just all around, it's a great game, period, because it's a little bit hard, but not too difficult. And there's actually secrets that in that game that people still have not discovered yet. You know, some people, unless you watch like maybe a speed runner, which I did do back in what was it? I think 2019. I actually learned about the freaking minecart freaking glitch. It wasn't, and I didn't know about the minecart glitch as a kid. I didn't know that technically if you jump, uh, like below in the ground and literally almost try to kill yourself. There's actually a barrel which almost skips you right to the end. If I knew about that, like the minecart freaking ones were always the ones that literally always had the trouble with. But at the end of the day, it was just overall a great game. So yeah, that is the top 25 list. I want to thank AJ Banks and Glow Nunez for coming by, and everyone that's liked and subscribed to the channel. I'm still trying to reach 100 by September 6th. I hope I get it, but even if I don't, it's not that big of a deal. But yes, guys, I will be live streaming right after this, pretty much, in about 10 minutes or so. Give me about 10 minutes. I do have to get this thing set up and everything else. But we are going to be doing Jurassic World Evolution 2. So, yeah. About 10 minutes from now, Jurassic World Evolution 2. First Jurassic Park game since probably the 90s, in a way. I haven't played one since the 90s, so we're going to see how this goes. So, yeah. With that being said, I'll catch you guys in 10 minutes. See ya.